Good evening, everyone. And as all of you know, we had started with the small incision cataract surgery, surgical pearls, tips and tricks. Last lecture is the December first week, and now just because it's a very large topic and cannot cover in the one lecture, we are coming here with the part two of the SICS with none other than Dr. Jagannath Boramani sir. Sir has covered tunnel making and wound construction in his first lecture, and the rest of the surgical steps will be covered today. Thank you again, sir. And we got very good feedback after your first lecture, and we are all looking forward for the today's session, sir. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, so I can start, isn't it?
Yes.
You can see my screen, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And my voice is audible?
Yes, sir. Very much.
Okay. So good evening, all of you. Let me thank once again Lahane sir, Dr. Ragini madam, Dr. Preetham Sauman, Dr. Swapnesh, and the coordinator, Dr. Sumit Lahane, for giving me this opportunity. For me also, this is a different type of experience. Generally, we talk in the conference for 7 to 8 minutes and we have to just rapidly cover the topic. But discussing with the PGs all the details, I think this is totally different experience. Uh, so last time we have covered how the scleral tunnel, the details of the scleral tunnel management and the construction of the scleral tunnel, how it helps. Now today, I am going to cover the aspect of surgical techniques of nucleus management in SICS, because these are the two major differences between the phacoemulsification and small incision cataract surgery, the making of the scleral tunnel and the management of the nucleus. So in the nucleus management, there are basically two parts. One is, first part is how to prolapse the nucleus out of the bag into the capsular bag into the antechamber. And secondly, how to remove the nucleus from the scleral tunnel, the wound. Now, for prolapsing the nucleus out of the bag, there are various techniques done by various surgeons. Everyone can uh, take his own choice, whatever is comfortable to him. One thing is that many times when you do hydrodissection, with that hydrodissection itself, the nucleus can pop up if the nucleus size is small and the capsular axis size is sufficient. Many times you can prolapse the nucleus out of the bag with the visco expression, or sometimes, or most of the times, you have to prolapse the nucleus, rotate the nucleus, and tumble it out of the capsular bag. Now, this can be done using a single-handed technique with a single Sinskey hook, or sometimes you can have two instruments and it is a double-handed technique. I'll be showing both of them. So let me show you few videos. Now in the first video, the capsular axis is done, and with the Sinskey hook, you go to the equator and gently lift the equator. Once the equator props out, slowly do rotational movement, because generally the diameter of the nucleus is little bigger than the diameter of the capsular axis. So straight away, if you try to lift everything, sometimes there can be zonular dehiscence or zonular dianesis. So once one edge of the nucleus starts propping out, do the rotational movements, and with the rotational movement, what happens? The nucleus itself acts as an expander of the pupil. It's because the expander of the capsule is very elastic. So the nucleus itself stretches the capsule, and gently with the rotational movement, you can take out the nucleus. Now on the right side video, now I'm doing hydrodissection. So again with the hydrodissection, the fluid has gone, the nucleus is slightly prolapsed. Do the rotational movements. And sometimes what happens, if the nucleus is big, you can do the tumbling of the nucleus. Tumbling in the sense the anterior part of the nucleus goes posteriorly and the back side of the nucleus comes in front. So with this tumbling movement, the capsule gets expanded and you can easily bring the major part of the nucleus out. Once the larger diameter comes out, you can gently rotate with either Sinskey hook or with the same hydrodissection cannula. Now in the third video on your left side, again I'm doing the hydrodissection, passing the fluid wave, and see with the fluid wave itself, one edge of the nucleus has prolapsed. So if the nucleus is not very big and the capsular axis is of sufficient size, with the hydrodissection itself, the nucleus can prolapse. But you should not attempt this with a very severe force, because if it comes out easily, it's fine. But otherwise, don't try with the hydrodissection, because sometimes the fluid can rupture the posterior capsule. Now on the right side video, Again, you can see with the hydrodissection itself, the whole nucleus has stretched the capsule and total the nucleus has come into the antechamber. So this is the way the nucleus can be prolapsed. But the safest way will be to prolapse the nucleus by rotational movements using Sinskey hook. It can be single-handed or double-handed technique. You have seen the single-handed technique here, but the double-handed technique you will see in some different video. Now, as far as the nuclear delivery out of the scleral tunnel is concerned, there are various techniques. I'll be elaborating on some of the common techniques. The most popular technique is Blumenthal's mini nucleus technique. This is the hydro expression of the nucleus. You can take out the nucleus by using an Vectis, which is sending fluid in the antechamber. That is called as the irrigating Vectis technique. You can do visco expression with methyl cellulose. You can inject the visco into the antechamber, and that will try to push the nucleus out. You can have phaco sandwich, hold the nucleus between two instruments, sandwich the nucleus and pull it out. There is a technique called as fish hook technique, which is a very rapid and fast technique. And there are multiple phaco-fragmentation techniques. Phaco-fragmentation techniques, you divide the nucleus into 2 or 3 pieces. In phaco-fragmentation techniques, you can do bisection, you can do trisection, you can do phaco punch, you can use snare or sling, you can do pre-choppers or various types of choppers, or you can do the fragmentation into the scleral tunnel. So I'll be showing with the videos all the various techniques. But first of all, I'm going to cover the most popular technique, which is Blumenthal mini nucleus technique. Though it is not most popular, it may not be a very common technique because it requires the use of the antechamber maintainer. Antechamber maintainer, still many people are not very comfortable with use of antechamber maintainer. Antechamber is a maintainer, like I told in my last talk, is a small cannula which is connected to the BSS bottle, the balanced salt solution, which is at the height of say 60 centimeters. So continuously there is fluid input inside the eye and the eyebrow is pressurized. Generally with the antechamber maintainer on, the pressure of the globe raises to 30 millimeters of mercury, and very many people are not very comfortable operating with such a high pressure. But this high pressure is in the antechamber, so it pushes the posterior capsule also behind, and you can comfortably do with the normal anatomical structure without need for viscoelastics and without need for repeatedly injecting viscoelastics into the antechamber. And as I told you last time, the Blumenthal incision is a straight central 4 millimeter horizontal incisions followed by 2 radial cuts. Do the scleral tunnel dissection in the usual way, but this is not with the pocket. So do additional dissection on both the sides. These curved dissection, these are called as the scleral pocket, which can trap the nucleus in that. So once you dissect the tunnel, when you take the nucleus out into the antechamber, you have to put a thin glide, which is called as the Sheets glide. This is a Sheets glide which goes into the scleral tunnel and depress the Sheets glide, depress the posterior wall of the scleral tunnel. So because of that, the fluid starts flowing out and it brings nucleus into the scleral tunnel. So the nucleus gets trapped into the scleral tunnel and it can come out totally, or you can divide the nucleus into the scleral tunnel. So I'll show you one full video of mine of the Blumenthal mini nuke technique along with my modifications in this technique. Now, generally what I do, when you cut the conjunctiva, first you have to cut the conjunctiva and the Tenon's capsule for making the sclera exposed. But generally what I do, once I cut the conjunctiva, I inject BSS underneath the conjunctiva. The purpose of...
So video is not visible in this slide.
It's not visible?
No, sir.
Oh, I think this was a hyperlink. Okay, I'll try to go to the video.
Okay.
I'll try to go to the video file. Just give me 1 minute. You can see my screen now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm going to the folder. Can you see now?
No, sir. No. It's still a black and gray zone.
Okay, I'll stop sharing and share again.
We'll do so.
I'll try to go to the file in the share. Can you see now?
Yes, sir. It's a folder. There are multiple videos. You are on.
No, but now the video is coming.
No, video has not started coming yet.
1 second. See, I want to start this video.
You can just double click and play, sir. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm playing that video. Here it is playing.
Okay, but no, we are not able to see, sir.
Okay. Now,
Not yet, sir.
oh, I'll stop sharing and see again.
Okay.
I'll first open the video and then share the screen.
Yes,
Let me
I
try that
think.
way.
Okay.
Uh,
Sir, you have to share the player.
Player, 1 minute.
Only then it will play.
Can you see now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now videos come, no? You can see, no?
Yes, sir. We can see.
Yeah. So once the conjunctiva, initial dissection of the conjunctiva, what happened? I push some fluid inside the conjunctiva. See, either you can use the anesthetic if you want subconjunctival injection of the anesthetic, or you can put BSS. Generally, I do all my surgeries under topical anesthesia. So I put BSS. Sometimes if I feel that patient has some pain, I push the fluid. The purpose of pushing the fluid and forming a bleb of the conjunctiva is that whatever the tunnel bleeding or the bleeding of the sclera takes place, it cannot enter the subconjunctival space and it cannot enter the subtenon space. So cosmetically, the eye appears better. It appears more white. Whatever is bleeding taking place, it starts coming out because you have already blocked the spaces with the fluid. So this is only for the cosmetic purpose. Now this is a MUR blade going tangentially at the lower limbus. Now this is not a radial incision. This is a MUR blade entry, and this is not like a side port. A side port is generally radial one. This is a tangential. This I am doing for the entry of the entry chamber maintainer. So this is a 20 gauge MUR blade, and the entry chamber maintainer cannula is passed. At the same time, I am doing one more entry here. This is a very small entry. This is also MUR bed side port, but you can see the side port. I don't enter, make the full entry. I have a very small entry and again come back. I'll tell you the reason why it is done like that. Now, this is the entry chamber maintainer, which is connected to the balance salt solution at the height of 60 centimeters through the IV tubing. So now the entry chamber maintainer is on and the fluid is, the globe is pressurized. So I am doing the dissection of the sclera. Now, generally what happens, I do the dissection directly with the Christian knife, but the beginner should not do like this. The beginner should have a cut with the uh, scalpel blade, form a groove and then start dissection. But once you become expert, the shape is already in your mind. Now the Blumenthal incision is a straight central incision, but here I have taken a Frohn incision. But I start the incision straightway with a, I start the incision straightway with a crescent knife. The reason for doing so is that cosmetically this wound looks very good post-operatively. Most of the times what happens, the peripheral healing is so well that you can see, you feel as if you have done a surgery through a small 2 mm groove. So that is the only advantage. So I'm used to this type of technique. Now, as I showed in the last talk, this is a dissection of the scleral tunnel. You should see that the blade is seen throughout while you're doing the dissection. Now, once the dissection of the scleral tunnel is done, you make the side pockets here. Do the extra dissection, curve dissection here. That is called as the side pockets. Yeah, and do small 1 mm corneal dissection, which is concentric to the cornea with the same crescent knife. You can see there is a, now in this case, there is a bleeding in the tunnel. Now entry chamber is not open, but even if the entry chamber get open, this blood cannot enter the entry chamber. That is the advantage of AC maintainer. Now you can see this is the bent cystitome. It is 26 or 27 gauge needle, bent cystitome, which is passing through the small cut. Now this is a side port, but this side port is not of the regular width. I had shown that I do a very small entry, which is sufficient for the side port, as long as the capsulexis is not done. Once the capsulexis is done, I'll show you how to proceed. Now there is no viscoelastic injected. This is with the entry chamber maintainer and do the capsulexis. You can comfortably do the capsulexis. Now, as the fluid is continuously coming through the anterior chamber maintainer, if this port, side port is a big one, there is continuous egression of the fluid, and there you get a lot of tremulousness of the capsule. Now, because this port is very narrow, there is no much movement of the capsule, and you can comfortably do as if you are doing in a very deep chamber with a good viscoelastic. But here I have not put any methyl cellulose or viscoelastic. But those who are not comfortable with AC maintainer, they can do this with the viscoelastic. Now see, once this is done, again take the MUR blade. Now this is one more trick, because now the irrigation is through the entry chamber maintainer. What I do generally, I mount this cystitome at the back of the Sinskey hook. This is a Sinskey hook, the handle of the Sinskey hook, and I just mount this thing because I don't need any fluid through the capsule axis. It is coming through the entry chamber maintainer. But this, like a pen, you can hold this, and your hand movements become very comfortable this way. And once the capsular axis is done, with the same MVR blade, you enter the same port, and now you do the proper width, whatever is the regular width. And most of the time, the capsule runs out. This is a hydrodissection done with the hydrodissection cannula. You can see this cannula also. Generally, it is better to use a hydrodissection cannula, which has got an opening at not exactly at the end, but this is oblique slanting opening. So this is a cannula. I think this is Dr. Fine's hydrodissection cannula, but the fluid is now directed towards the entry chamber. So this type of cannula is more safe for hydrodissection. Go underneath the entry capsule, do the hydrodissection in a usual way. Now do it at one port. If you want to do hydrodissection at other port, try to press the nucleus, because whatever fluid is trapped behind the nucleus, it should go out. If you continue the hydrodissection in the same way, sometimes the posterior capsule gets ruptured. Now with the second hydrodissection, this part of the nucleus has prolapsed out. And now you do the rotation of the nucleus and take the nucleus out. If the nucleus doesn't prolapse, many times it is preferable to rotate the nucleus multiple times inside the capsular bag, because that will loosen the peripheral cortex. Now the nucleus is prolapsed. Now in the Blumenthal technique, there is no viscoelastic, so don't prolapse the nucleus and get into entry chamber totally. Take the only major portion of the nucleus out, because when you are entering with the keratome, sometimes the nucleus can rub the endothelium. So just keep it slanting like this. This part of the nucleus is in the back. Now with the keratome, like I said last time, this keratome blade should be now parallel to the iris. Enter and do the cutting when you are entering inside. So this way expand the, now this is the internal incision. Now you can see, in spite of the internal incision, whatever the bleeding is there in the scleral tunnel, it is continuously coming out. Now this is a very important step of Blumenthal technique, because in my right hand now there is a sheet guide. This is a thin plastic guide which has gone into the entry chamber. I am trying to press the posterior wall, and now the nucleus is coming and getting trapped into the scleral tunnel. See, this is a representation. So this is the nucleus which is now trapped into the scleral tunnel, and this nucleus may come out totally. If it doesn't come out totally, you can fragment the nucleus. I'll show you my technique of fragmentation of the nucleus also. This way, take the nucleus out. Correct. Now I'll go little fast here. Now this is a irrigation aspiration cannula. This is a part of the Duet's cannula. All the paper surgeons are doing irrigation and aspiration with two cannulas. That is called as the Duet cannula. So I'm using only the aspiration part of the cannula. This aspiration cannula is connected through a tubing to a syringe in my left hand. It is a 5 cc syringe in my left hand, and I am doing the manual aspiration. So when you're doing it manually, you can control the aspiration perfectly with the left hand. Now why I'm using only aspiration cannula? Because irrigation is continuously there through the AC maintainer coming. The chamber is fully formed. So you don't need the irrigation cannula in the left hand. On the contrary, there is syringe in my left hand and I'm doing the aspiration. Another advantage of AC maintainer is that in this case only, the capsule also is caught. You can do the polishing of the entry capsule with the same aspiration cannula. With the gentle aspiration, move the cannula. Yeah, this way all the cells from the posterior part of the entry capsule also are removed. Now you can see here that the posterior capsule is caught now, isn't it? But because of the fluid coming from the entry chamber, you just don't do anything. Don't pull out the cannula. This fluid pressure slowly releases this, or maybe you can push the fluid in the from the syringe in the left hand, and again the capsule gets released. So many times you are saved because of the entry chamber maintainer. Now this side port on the left side, I have taken one more, because sometimes there is difficulty in clearing the cortex on this side. Every time you need not take this one. You have only one side port, you can do everything. Or you can enter through the main port also for aspirating the cortex on this side. Now, if you want to do the polishing of the posterior capsule, now what happens if this is a ring type of polisher, which is for scrubbing the cells from the posterior capsule. But if you push this polisher, the incision is this big, almost 5 millimeters. So the fluid starts coming out and the antechamber becomes shallow. So what you do with a forceps in my left hand, now I'm just pressing the anterior wall of the scleral tunnel, so that now practically the tunnel becomes very small, just to introduce this capsule polisher, and then the chamber doesn't collapse, it becomes quite well maintained. And with the forceps here, you can do the capsular polishing. Otherwise, the polishing becomes difficult through the main port. Now, another advantage of SICS is that you can put any type of lens. Maybe it is a rigid lens and even foldable lens, multifocal lens, premium lens, toric lens, everything you can put. Now, when you are putting the foldable lens with the AC maintainer on, many times the lower haptics can touch the endothelium. So try to fold the haptics backward and insert the lens so that the endothelium is protected. And once the lens is inside, with the manipulator in the right hand, you just do the reposite the lens into the capsular bag. And once the implantation is done, swipe a repositor. This is a very important state, because what happens, this is not a phaco surgery. In SICS surgery, many times you can have small cortical pieces trapped into the scleral tunnel. So when the cortical pieces are trapped in the scleral tunnel, they can cause irritation and they can cause inflammation. So if you are not using AC maintainer, or maybe with there are different types of SICS surgery also, it is better to irrigate the scleral tunnel. Or here the AC maintainer fluid is on, so I just swipe the repositor. So with that, whatever the small pieces are there, they will come out. So this incision was about 5 millimeter. Generally 5 millimeter or less than 5.5 millimeter also is sufficient. You do the hydration of the side ports, see that the direction is in the stroma so that there is no sudden descent detachment. So AC maintainer is the first thing to go in and the last thing to come out. And the AC maintainer is kept on throughout the procedure. So this surgery is done without using any viscoelastics, and generally it is not required in Blumenthal's technique once you use the AC maintainer. But there are some occasions wherein you have to stop the AC maintainer and you can use viscoelastics. Now I'm injecting the steroid in the congenital space. Sometimes you can inject BSS also, and then cauterization also may not be required. So this is the end of the surgery. I'll go to the slideshow again. You can see the slides, no?
Yes, sir.
Now this is a Fishhook technique. This is popularized by Dr. Henning in Nepal. They do the mass surgery, and this is a very fast surgery. I'll just show you a glimpse. But this is a very quick and very good surgery. Now with the diamond knife, what they are doing the tunnel with the same thing we do the antechamber entry, and they with the same time they do the capsulotomy also, because they want to do the surgery very fast. Most of the times it is the envelope techniques. With the same knife they cut the capsule also. See, he's cutting the capsule now. Once the nucleus is prolapsed with the, this is viscoelastic. The nucleus is rotated and prolapsed. And now the surgeon is holding a small needle in his hand. This needle is bent in such a way that it is in a hook, fish hook shaped. So this fish hook is now passed behind the nucleus, and with slight rotation of the hand, the hook traps the nucleus. You just trap the nucleus and pull it out. Now this is another wonderful technique, which is snare technique. This has been devised and popularized by Dr. Anil Shah from Maharashtra, Nandurbar. He has been doing this technique for last 35 years. Now all of you know what is tonsillar snare. It is a wire-like a wire-like structure which surrounds the tonsillar base and cuts the tonsil. So similarly, here snare is formed. The details I cannot explain, but this is a double barrel nucleus through which a snare is designed using a guitar wire. A string of guitar, they form a loop. Now this loop is passed surrounding the nucleus, and the loop is just pulled to cut the nucleus. So I'll show both the videos simultaneously. So you can see the surgeon's hand movements as well as the nucleus management. This is the video by Dr. Shivram Nadkarni. See, this is a guitar wire, loop-like guitar wire, which is surrounding the nucleus. So once it traps the nucleus totally, it is now pulled through the cannula, needle cannula. So with that pulling action, it cuts the nucleus and comes out. This is not a very safe surgery. You have to be very careful. Use lot of viscoelastic because you should not rub the endothelium as well as you should not puncture the posterior capsule. But the major advantage of this technique is that many times in a hard and brown cataract, there are leather-like strands between the two parts of the nucleus, even if you mechanically divide the nucleus. But with the snare, if you cut, the snare comes out totally through the nuclear mass. So whatever the two pieces are, they are perfect two pieces. And so the division of the nucleus is very good. Now this is a technique. I have taken the video from Dr. Vaijayanti Devdar, Pune. This is a visco expression. This is a very popular technique and very safe technique. After the capsulorhexis, now this is a hypermature cataract. So initially she has done a small capsulorhexis. Yeah, the nucleus is now rotated. So this is a cannula which is injecting methyl cellulose. The whole chamber is filled with a methyl cellulose. So once the chamber is filled with the methyl cellulose, you have to depress the posterior wall of the sclera, keep injecting the methyl cellulose. So the whole methyl cellulose starts pushing the nucleus out and you can take out the nucleus. If it cannot come out totally, you can fragment the nucleus into the scleral tunnel. So this technique is very popular technique and very safe technique because visco is not like a fluid. It pushes the posterior capsule also backwards. So this is one of the popular technique of visco expression of the nucleus. Now I'll show you one more technique. This is the phacosection technique, which is done by Dr. M.S. Ravindra. Now can you see this video?
No, sir.
This is not shared. Okay. I'll do one thing. I'll show this video afterwards when time permits.
Will do, sir.
This is another technique. This was my technique, the fragmenting of the nucleus with the axe chopper and blade chopper. I had designed these choppers, and this technique is a closed chamber manual phacopragmentation. In fact, I got many awards in the state conference as well as the national conference on this for this technique. But I will not show this technique because this technique is difficult to follow. And even I am not doing this technique. I am doing the another technique of endo expression of the nucleus. So I'll close this and go to the other presentation. Yeah, can you see this slide?
Yes, sir.
This is a very safe technique of endo expression of the nucleus. So most of the techniques are pulling technique, but this is a pushing technique, pushing the nucleus from inside out. So I have been doing this technique for many years, but the terminology endo expression, this term was coined by late Dr. Kumar Vikram Singh Dhaliwal. Now, before going to the endo expression of the nucleus, many times you see if you use the antechamber maintainer, now this is a straight incision because this patient must be having some astigmatism, and this is a temporal incision. I have passed the repositor and trapped the nucleus. So many times you feel that you should just leave all the instruments, and this is automatically the nucleus get delivered. So I call this auto expression or auto delivery of the nucleus. But this is not possible every time. Now here incision is a Frown one, but the nucleus is big one compared to the size of the incision. So with the fluid now nucleus is pushed and trapped into the scleral tunnel, but still the size of the incision is small compared to the nucleus. So what you can do, there is always a side port on the right side. So with a Sinskey hook, I pass it into the side port and try to push the nucleus out. So sclera is elastic. So many times the nucleus stretches the sclera and takes the nucleus out, or the Sinskey hook divides the nucleus into the scleral tunnel. So here I have done the chipping. So when the chipping is done, the effective diameter of the nucleus becomes small. You can again rotate the nucleus. Yeah, it comes out. If it gets trapped, you can pass the Sinskey hook again, second time. Gently do the rotational movements and take that nucleus out. Here also, I don't use viscoelastic because the chamber is formed with the AC maintainer. So this is an easy way of pushing the nucleus. I'll just show you a couple of these videos. You can see one more video here. See, this is the size of the incision marked by this thing. Now, this incision is very small. It must be about 4 millimeter only. And the nucleus size is quite big compared to the size of the incision. See, this is a U-shaped incision. It is not a regular prawn. Last time I told you why I take this type of incisions many times. It is mainly to manage the astigmatism, because my incision shapes depend upon the types of the astigmatism. But this is an advanced type of surgeries. If you are not expert, don't try these types of incisions. But now this incision is small compared to the size of the nucleus. So again, the nucleus get trapped into the scleral tunnel with a Sinskey hook in the right hand. Push the nucleus. Now what happens? The nucleus, whatever the pressure you are giving, that is borne by the walls of the scleral tunnel and not the endothelium, because you are pushing the nucleus into the scleral tunnel. The nucleus get fragmented into the tunnel. Once the nucleus get fragmented, it is easier. You can hook the nucleus also, pull it out, or again you can do a second pushing action. So very gently. Yes, so this way the major part of the nucleus comes out. So in my opinion, this endo expression is a very safe nucleus. It is not necessary that you have to do it with the SA maintainer. You can, even with viscoelastics, you can resort to this technique. It is very safe technique. And the endothelium is preserved because there is no rubbing of the endothelium. Many times you try to take out the nucleus with the Vectis, but that time there is a risk of rubbing the endothelium with the nucleus. Can I continue for 5-10 minutes? It is 7:36.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can
So
definitely.
accordingly, I'll show you. I may skip 1 or 2 videos, and then I'll try to stop at 7:40, 7:45 so that we can have some discussion. Now, this is a temporal straight incision. Nucleus is a brown and big one. See, there is slight stretching of the sclera and the nucleus is pushed out. This is a hard nucleus, but it stretches the sclera. So either it comes out totally or it gets divided into the nucleus. I'll skip this video. This is again a U-shaped incision. This is less than 5 millimeter incision, and nucleus is again big and black one. Now what happens once you put the repositor, press the posterior wall, but continue that pressure, change the hand here and press with the forceps in the left hand. Otherwise what happens, if you release the repositor, the nucleus may go back into the entry chamber. So you have to maintain the pressure with the forceps in the left hand, and then your assistant gives the Sinskey hook in the right hand and you try to push it. I'll show you in the next video how. So many times the pieces can be taken out with a rotational motion. Now this patient must be having a spherical cornea, no astigmatism. That's why I taken a U-shaped incision. This incision I think is less than 4 millimeters. But even if you take up to 4.5 millimeter and U-shaped incision, it doesn't induce any astigmatism. So I manage the shape of the incision depending upon the pre-existing astigmatism. these corneas are mostly clear on the second day because you are not rubbing the endothelium, and you're just all the pressure is within the scleral tunnel. It is borne by the walls of the scleral tunnel, not by the endothelium. And many times what happens if the AC maintainer, because of the AC maintainer, no, the second piece just jumps out. I am passing the repository area. Here you can see, yeah, the piece has just jumped out. So this is a diagrammatic representation of endo expression of the nucleus. With the Sinskey hook, you are pushing the nucleus into the scleral tunnel, but because of the AC maintainer, or maybe if you use the visco, the corneal endothelium is preserved. The nucleus is not touching the endothelium. Now, I'm going to show you one more technique of phacopragmentation afterwards, but many times after seeing so many techniques, you always wonder which is the best technique now. So it is a very confusing question. Sometimes you feel that this question, this technique is best, that technique is best, but all SSS techniques are not very easy to learn. There is always a hazard. So it's a statutory warning. Always it is a hazardous techniques and you have to handle with very careful. Let's stop this presentation and go to one more presentation. It's getting saved.
Saving the change, sir. You can just minimize.
It is saying because that minimization is not possible. It is saving now. I think you have to wait for half an hour, or maybe you can take one question.
Okay.
I am not able to minimize or go to Zoom also.
Okay. Then there is a request to share the nucleus delivery techniques in the pseudoexfoliation, post-vitrectomy, and the calcified capsule.
Okay.
Patients.
Okay.
And also, where should be the anterior edge of the glide in the Blumenthal technique throughout the surgery?
Okay. 1 minute. Let me finish this small video.
Yes.
Then we'll take up all the questions. Can you see this video now?
Yes, sir.
So this is a video of Dr. M.S. Ravindra from Bangalore. This is a very safe technique at his hand, which is called as a phacosection. So he does the surgery without any this thing side port. His incision is always 6 millimeter or 5 millimeter. Nowadays he's taking a clear corneal incision, which is almost 5 millimeters, and he's doing the technique under viscoelastics. Now here you can see two-handed techniques of nuclear delivery from the bag. So both the instruments are in the main tunnel, and he gently rotates the nucleus. So with the left instrument, he slides the nucleus on one side so that one tip can come out, and with that rotational movement, he takes the nucleus out. This method of rotation is very safe with two hands because the stress on the zonules is very less with the two-handed technique. Now he uses a modified Victis, which is a narrow Victis which goes underneath. Now this is a cannula in front, but which is pushing viscoelastic also, as well as it is cutting. So the nucleus is divided between these two instruments. Back side is a Victis, front side is a viscoelastic cannula. The cannula is pressing on the Victis and the nucleus get divided. So with the sufficient methyl cellulose into the anterior chamber gently. Now here you can see visco expression of the small fragments. Now again with the visco cannula, the right sided piece is taken into the center. And without using the forceps, again he is holding with the same Victis and the cannula and taking the out. So this is a phaco expression technique done by him under the viscoelastic. Yes, now we can take up the questions.
Sir.
Yeah.
So at what place exactly the edge of the glide is kept during the Blumenthal technique?
Correct. Blumenthal technique. The edge of the glide is passed into the scleral tunnel, and the front edge of the glide, you can go on almost up to the internal incision, but don't go beyond internal incision, because once you go up to the internal incision, press the scleral tunnel down, the nucleus slowly comes and gets trapped. You need not go into the anterior chamber. But sometimes what happens, if there is a troublesome If the tunnel is short or if there is some premature entry, there is iris prolapse into the scleral tunnel. So sometimes I take the glide and push the iris with that glide only and depress the glide. But generally it is not necessary to go beyond the tunnel. You remain inside the tunnel and press the tunnel down so that the tunnel opens inside, and with the fluid pressure the nucleus starts gliding and it comes over the sheets glide.
And there is one more question. How long is the recovery period in the SICS?
It is quite fast. It is not that SICS, see, it depends upon the surgeon, the time taken by the surgeon, and the trouble given to the eye. So the recovery in SICS is very fast. On the contrary, many workers have done the study of the endothelium. In phacoemulsification, many times the endothelial loss is little more. But it depends. If an average SICS surgeon is not a very good one, he can definitely have more damage to the endothelium. But an excellent SICS surgeon can do with minimal damage to the. If he doesn't touch the endothelium, he can complete the surgery without major loss of the endothelium. In phacoemulsification, what happens? Even if you don't touch the endothelium, there is always ultrasound energy delivered into the antechamber. So some amount of loss is expected. In fact, Dr. Ravindra himself has done the studies in his phacoemulsification cases as well as the SICS cases, and he has seen that the endothelial loss is less in SICS. So whatever technique you use, always it is a golden sheet. Endothelium is a golden sheet. You have to see to it that the endothelium is protected.
Many times nucleus gets stuck in the tunnel. What is the best way to cut the nucleus, or it's better to extend the tunnel when the nucleus is stuck?
It depends upon the surgeon's expertise. See, I have shown this technique of endo expression. That also helps. Many times what happens, you just, if it is stuck into the scleral tunnel, just do a small chipping of the nucleus. You take a 26 gauge needle and horizontally you just pass it, because some part of the nucleus will be prolapsing. So just chip out that part with the nuclear. So what happens once you chip out that nuclear part, the one diameter of the nucleus reduces. Then you rotate the nucleus, and that smaller diameter is presented now, and it becomes easier to take out the nucleus. And I think Dr. Vilas Bidai from Gujarat, he does the punch technique. He pushes a nucleus, and with the route instrument, he just takes a crescentic shaped piece of the nucleus out. So with that cutting, the nucleus becomes a moon shaped, a half moon shaped, and he rotates the nucleus and take it out. So somehow you have to reduce the effective diameter of the nucleus if it gets stuck into the uh, entry chamber, scleral tunnel. But if the nucleus black and it is very difficult to divide the nucleus, don't hesitate to extend the tunnel. Because, and always you can have the radial extensions. Radial extension will not take part into the astigmatism, and you can go up to 8.5 millimeters also with, and keep it sutureless. There's no problem.
What would be the best position or location to insert AC maintainer? Is it always 6 o'clock, or it can change as per the surgeon's preference?
So it can change as per the surgeon preference. Like say, I have done the surgery in here with the superior incision. So when the incision is superior, and maybe with the in the right eye, it can be between 6 and 7 o'clock, slightly on the right side of the 6 o'clock. If the surgery is on the left side, you are introducing the AC meter from the left side, so it is slightly on the your left side or patient's right side. So it is between say 5. It is at around 5:30. This entry should be a tangential one, not a radial one, so that that incision also remains safe. Otherwise, side port like incision at the lower lower fornix, no, it is slightly hazardous, because it is seen even with the phaco incision, temporal phaco incision. There are some videos with every blink, sometimes the surface fluid is taken into the antechamber. But if the incision is tangential one, the lower incision of the for the AC maintainer, generally it remains airtight, watertight. So that is quite safe incision. But I am doing the surgery. My location is at various meridian depending upon the pre-existing astigmatism, because I always take the incision on the steep meridian. So my uh, entry into the entry chamber, the ACM entry is at various location. For example, if I'm doing a temporal incision in the right eye, the AC maintainer entry somewhere at 4 o'clock. If it is a left eye, again it is somewhere at say 2 o'clock. So depending upon that, and it depends. It also depends upon how deep is the eye. So depending upon, if the eye is very deep, if you feel that the AC maintainer the tube is getting kinked at particular location, you can change the location. And it is not necessary that it has to be at 6 o'clock. It has to be away from the incision. Nothing like that. You can have AC maintainer in any position.
Thank you, sir. And then, is the superior rectus stitch is a must in the wire vectis or the visco technique, I suppose?
Yeah, it's a very good question because good that you raised this question.
Hmm.
Many places I have seen superior rectus stitch is taken, and superior stitch is an unnecessary trauma to the eye. It is an unnecessary trauma to the eye. It is never required. Superior rectus stitch is never required. Why you pass a suture needle in the and cause some damage to the superior rectus muscle? It is not required. Previously, see when we were doing PG, these thin type of speculums were not available. The modern speculums which are using in the cataract surgery, they do the proper retraction of the eyelids. So in those times, what happened? We used to pass stitch in the lid also to retract the lids, and then we used to pass superior rectus suture so that the eye is looking down and the superior portion is exposed. This was my one of favorite question also. I used to, the superior rectus is a elevator of the eye. So when you are pulling the superior rectus, why should the eye should look down? It is an elevator of the eye, is it? Why? It's a very interesting. If someone, let me see whether someone can answer this question. Superior rectus is an elevator of the eye. So when you are pulling the superior rectus, the eye is looking down. It is getting depressed and not getting elevated. So with the modern speculum, superior rectus stitch is not required. Whenever you want patient to look down, suppose the patient you are doing the surgery under the block. I am doing under topical anesthesia. So many times I tell the patient to look down, he looks down. But if you are doing under the block, he's not able to move the eye. Always with the forceps in the left hand, you can turn the eyeball downwards at whatever step it is required. You don't need superior rectus stitch. It is an unnecessary trauma. I have discussed this in various webinars. Even say Dr. Purvi Bhagat, you must be aware of Dr. Purvi Bhagat in Gujarat. They used to take superior rectus stitch. But after my webinar, the very next day she told me, now we have started doing superior rectus, and I'm really wondering why we are taking superior rectus. It is not required only.
Sir, related to the same thing, what is the anesthesia that you use in all these cases? Is it topical or you give us subcutaneous lignocaine or subconjunctival
Yeah.
lignocaine, something like that?
My anesthesia is topical. I am the first person in India to start topical anesthesia for SICS. 1997 onwards, I am doing under topical anesthesia. When I wanted to shift to subtenon, I used to give topical, and then couple of times it happens that the surgery got completed and the anesthetist told that you are not given subtenon. So then I started wondering how, because topical also has to work. See, you are putting these NSAID eye drops for macular lesions, isn't it? So this means that the eye drops, when it gets absorbed, it can reach up to the macula. So topical also anesthetize the eye comfortably. It is a mental block with surgeon that it is difficult to do surgery under topical anesthesia. Especially in SIC surgery, now also 70 to 80% surgeons must be giving the block. But surgeons have to see their comfort. If they are not comfortable, they should not insist and go for topical. For example, many stalwarts, SIC stalwarts, they used to have debate with me in the conference in 97, 98 when I used to present for topical. They said, how can it, topical is not possible in SICS. Sclera is always painful, this is always painful. But most of them are now doing the surgery under topical anesthesia. So you can always do comfortably under topical anesthesia. One more thing I want to give a warning in topical anesthesia. See, topical anesthesia, when you give a block to the eye, many times the optic nerve get anesthetized and the person temporarily becomes blind. Under topical anesthesia, generally person keeps seeing the light. But what happens even with topical anesthesia, sometimes the topical anesthetic reaches up to the optic nerve, and suddenly patient everything becomes dark. And these patients, when they are draped, they are just their ears are open, they are listening to what is happening in the operation theater, and they are looking at the microscope light. Now, if everything becomes dark, sometimes person feels very scared that something must have gone with the surgery, or maybe they must have cut my some important nerve and this thing. So always I tell the patient that you are seeing the light, look at the light. But when I'm doing passing fluid in the eye and this thing, sometimes everything will become dark. So you have to give them warning. This has happened once in my pterygium case, which was done under topical anesthesia. A young boy was getting operated. He was about 22-year-old. But when he stopped seeing light, suddenly he went into vasovagal shock, because patient is just concentrating only on the light and he is listening to the sounds in the operation theater. Now, how to give topical anesthesia? Again, there are multiple ways. I put Paracaine two times, once outside, and then once when the patient enters inside, and I put Xylocaine jelly. So with that, the topical is considered the completed. Second advantage of topical in SICS is that, like whenever you feel that the anesthesia is not good one, the patient is having some pain, the conjunctiva is always cut. The tenon also is always cut. So you can always push anesthetic under the conjunctival or subtenon space with a blunt cannula. So you can supplement with subtenon without patient knowledge that you're, because you're not using any sharp needle. So if you tell the patient that it is an injectional surgery, injection-less surgery, it is always injection-less. So don't hesitate to supplement with subtenon whenever required. It is not a phaco surgery so that now you have to cut the conjunctiva, push the cannula under conjunctiva and tenon, because already that is cut in SIS surgery. So whenever need arises, you can give subtenon, and further if required, you can give intracameral also, isn't it? But for the patient, it becomes an prickle surgery throughout. So I start all the cases under topical, but I don't complete all the cases under topical.
Sir, you said xylocaine jelly. So at what time? Like you put a xylocaine jelly after the patient is on table draped or before that?
Yeah, before draping, I put the xylocaine jelly.
Okay.
I put the xylocaine jelly and then do the cleaning and draping of the eye. Another advantage of AC maintainer is that, even I had asked this question to Dr. Blumenthal, with AC maintainer, nothing can enter the eye. Everything comes out only because of the irrigation.
Positive pressure.
So is there any harm in using topical during the surgery also? There is no harm because it cannot enter the eye, but it will have a surface action. So that also we can do with if you are using AC maintainer, because it will not go into the antechamber, but it will have its action on the conjunctiva, tenon and subtenon space. And when it gets absorbed, it will have action on the iris also. Now, under topical anesthesia, I have done many times stretch pupilloplasty. Patient doesn't get pain. I think, see, Dr. Amar Agarwal used to do no anesthesia surgery. There also, in live demonstration, he has done many times. He has shown stretch pupilloplasty, and he said it doesn't pain at all. Once you create a lot of stress on the zonules or the ciliary body, that can be sometimes painful. So that you have to be careful. Otherwise, it is a painless surgery. And 2 to 3 times in live demonstration it has happened. Once I was operating in Hubli, 400 to 500 people were watching, and once this has happened in Malaysia also, I was doing live demonstration. The PC got ruptured, so I did vitrectomy and implanted the 3-piece lens into ciliary sulcus, but this was completed under topical anesthesia.
Sir, and then I noticed that you don't do cautery or you avoid cautery, like especially in the topical anesthesia say, or that is a modification that you have adapted over a period of time.
No. Cautery you can do. Under topical also you can do cautery.
Okay.
Yeah. Cautery is also painless. You can do cautery under topical.
I think Sapnesh sir wanted to say something.
Yes.
Sir, I would like to just share the Moorfields London Hospital experience.
Okay.
So over there also, they do the cataract surgeries under topical anesthesia, but their technique is slightly different. Where the anesthesia is given by the anesthetist in an anesthesia waiting room. So they have a eye drape and a speculum with a pair of scissors and atraumatic forceps. They put paracaine, they put lignocaine jelly, and after 5 minutes, the anesthetist opens the conch and gives a subtenon's block with the help of a cannula. So, and it is done for almost all the patients. And still they call it as a topical no needle injection or no needle anesthesia over there. And it is not given by the surgeon because surgeon is doing a case while this is happening outside. So this same thing, it's slight modification what you told is routinely done as a first step of the surgery in the anesthesia. And about the cautery, yes, I also do a cautery, but I just reinstill a pair of paracaine drops before I do the cautery if at all the wound is leaking, even in topical phaco also.
Correct, because doing cautery also is painless. And I also use subtenon in at least 30 or 40% of the cases, but that is on the table. The patient is instructed that you will come to that something is going on in the eye. We will not have pain, but even if you have slightest pain, don't tolerate it. You just tell me. I can always I don't tell patient that I can inject subtenon. I tell them I'm putting more drops, but I give subtenon then on table. Because this thing, conjunctiva is always open, so you can give subtenon with a cannula anytime. So that xylocaine with a blunt cannula is always ready on my table. It is kept ready on the table.
Then there is question from Dr. Begzod. What are the complications of the fish hook method?
I personally have never done the fish hook method, but I think there are no specific complications to the fish hook method. because once you hook the nucleus and while pulling it out, if you don't rub the cornea, if you put sufficient viscoelastic, it should be a very good technique, because this is also mechanical pulling. If the fish hook is not able to pull the nucleus totally out, then it will at least fragment the nucleus and the hook will come out. So this way the phaco fragmentation takes place in the tunnel. Only thing is the fish hook is a three-dimensional structure. The hook, the bends are slightly curved one. Once you enter the fish hook down, you have to rotate your hand slightly so that the hook comes slightly up. Then it will trap the nucleus while coming out. But I don't think there are major hazards of fish hook techniques. Yes, there can be major hazards of snare technique if you are not well versed with the snare technique. I also personally not done snare technique because you have to pass the snare totally around the nucleus, taking care of the posterior capsule as well as the endothelium. So I think it requires some expertise.
So a good SICS surgeon will help him to bail out from any sticky situation during phaco also. Many a times
absolutely.
because we use the tumbling technique, many a times if the rhexis is small and we are unable to grab the pieces, just the tumbling of even the fragmented pieces, it just helps to get the pieces in the iris plane.
Correct. But see what happens, SICS is, many surgeons are doing SICS technique. Many beginners also they do SICS, because again buying a phacoincision machine is a very costly affair. Because of that they do SICS surgery, but they may not be expert SICS surgeon. They keep damaging the cornea, and that is how the SICS gets a bad name. But if you have a good advanced SICS surgery, in my personal opinion, we can give, like I do customized incision, so I give more advantages than phacoincision. Only thing is you have to learn that advanced technique. And the advantage of major advanced SICS technique, I can put it other way around. You can always, in many conferences you have seen that how to convert to SICS during phaco. So many talks you have heard, but you have never heard a talk how to convert to phaco during SICS, isn't it? Or tell me a single situation, we have planned an SICS surgery, halfway you get stuck and then you say, oh, let me now convert to phaco. I don't think so. So SICS is for 100% of the nucleus.
Yes, definitely. Only place where I can think of is if my last patient is undergoing SICS, then I would use the phaco irrigation aspiration, make 2 side ports and finish it off.
Correct.
But that has no extra advantage over the routine Simcoes or the AC maintainer.
Yeah, correct.
Then there is one more question from Dr. Navela. Can preacher forceps instrument be used to cut the nucleus in cases of hard cataract, like instead of snare?
Yes. The pre-chopper, I think you are talking about that Akaushis pre-chopper.
Yes, sir, yes.
Isn't it? Yeah. Dr. S.S. Bhatti used to do a lot. I don't know whether he's still using, but he always divides the nucleus with a pre-chopper. If the nucleus is grade 1, grade 2, chopper is a sharp one, it can easily pierce the nucleus. But for harder nucleus, then you have to support the nucleus with another instrument in the left hand. But it is also a wonderful technique, pre-chopper.
So
and even I think
if I'm not wrong, Bhatti sir also has a video where he uses a vectis below and a chopper from top. So to divide the nucleus into smaller 3 pieces.
Correct.
So that he in that video he describes that the incision should not need not be increased because now the pieces are in a smaller in size.
Correct. But this pre-chopper is an excellent tool, especially for phaco surgeon. Because that first part of grooving and this thing, at least mechanically it is done.
There is one question I did not understand. What do you feel the open tunnel with after removing the lens?
I think that
I think they want to ask about anterior chamber. What do you feel open, like with anterior chamber after you remove the lens? In AC maintainer it fills the BSS, and otherwise in visco technique they can put the visco.
Visco, yeah. If there is no AC maintainer, once the nucleus is out, again the chamber may become little shallow, and you can form the chamber with the viscoelastic.
So, what are your preferred viscoelastics in SICS? Do you really opt for, because now that you are absolutely a master in SICS, I'm sure you would be managing with the routine viscoelastics even in the worst of the cases.
I use methyl cellulose mostly, but if I feel that patient is aged, endothelium not very healthy, then I use viscose-like substance just to coat the endothelium. But otherwise, use methyl cellulose. But I use this thing viscoelastic hardly in 10% of the cases. in the entry chamber, because with the AC maintainer it is not required. But I'll tell you situations where I use viscoelastic. What happens in Blumenthal's technique, no? It is a round undivided nucleus which comes and gets trapped into the scleral tunnel. But if somehow the nucleus get fragmented, many times what happens, soft nuclei, they get fragmented. So these fragments, no, they can't effectively block the tunnel. Round nucleus, once if it comes into the tunnel, it blocks the tunnel. It doesn't allow the fluid to pass out. Then the pressure is built up into the entry chamber, and then the fluid starts pushing the nucleus. So with the fragment, with irregular edges, there is seepage, and with the fluidics, because once you pass even sheets glide underneath, no, suddenly the AC can become shallow because fluid is seeping from the sides. So in such cases, I stop the AC maintainer and do viscoaspiration, because then it becomes more safe. Sometimes, because I have learned with experiences, many times छोटा तो piece है, small piece है, nuclear piece, I'll just put a sheets glide and just make the piece come out, but it doesn't come out, and sometimes the entry chamber gets shallow and suddenly the PC gets ruptured. So in such cases, it is better to put a viscoelastic, stop the AC maintainer for the time being. When the nuclear piece is out, again you start the AC maintainer.
And sir, like you said, you do it under topical. So when you do visco, so do that time you have to tell patient to look down, or you do just with the forcep, like for the counter pressure, how do you manage while removing the nucleus with the visco in topical without
correct.
the superior actors?
Suppose if there is nucleus fragment and I'm doing viscoelastic, I fill with the entry chamber with the visco. So in my right hand, that syringe is there, visco syringe is there. So with the forceps in the left hand, you rotate the nucleus to the other side. It may not be down in my case, but to the other side, I would like to say. But patient need not be told anything. But I am doing under topical. Many times what happens, suppose the incision is temporal, and at that nuclear release stage, I tell the patient to look to the other side, look to your left side. So it becomes, the surgery becomes easier.
So did we discuss management of thick epinucleus?
No.
So a few quick tips, because we need to wind up. There is a MOS webinar, but how to
Okay.
manage thick epinucleus. Like I would share my technique that I just go in with a hydro cannula, usually the phaco, the handpiece where there is a irrigation cannula, and just hydrate, depress the lip of the SICS. And I think that kind of mobilizes the epinucleus, and sometimes just like a flower, it comes out
Right, comes out.
in the AC. So what
Epinucleus,
tips you would do?
no, I think I do the same technique. Thick nucleus, you mean a ring-like structure which remains after the removal of the surgical nucleus. Correct. And now it becomes difficult to aspirate such things. It remains there only. What I do with a blunt repositor, I pass the repositor through the side port and rotate that ring. The epinucleus ring I rotate, so it becomes loosened. Many times what I do hydrojetting through the side port. I just, with a thin cannula, I just forcibly spray the fluid in the capsular bag, because with the AC maintainer, no, it cannot rupture the posterior capsule, but it loosens the cortex, and many times once one part of the epinucleus pops out above the capsule, then you just depress the posterior lip of the scleral tunnel, and slowly that epinucleus comes out. But many times I do the rotational action to loosen it. In fact, yesterday only I did a case where the epinucleus was very stuck up and it was taking a lot of time. So I rotated multiple times, and then slowly it starts coming out. That too, again, it got broken and came out in the pieces.
Yeah. Great. Sumit, any more questions?
There is one question, sir, but I think to answer that we'll need one more lecture. The question is common complications after his operation. I think for that we'll have to take SICS hard that it can be well.
It was wonderful, part 1, part 2, and I think we had a star presenter and a star speaker. That's why the attendance has gone up again. Where the other webinars. Yes, so thank you very much. Thank you, Sumit, for managing the show so effectively, and thank you, sir, for giving us tips. We will again bother you for a few more talks in future. We'll take a break of a month, and maybe we will have one more session on SICS, probably astigmatism management in cataract surgery.
That is a little advanced one. We'll do that also. No problem. That will be wonderful. But I thank both of you and all of you.
Thank you.
Those who are present attending us. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.